I'm here with a timeless pick a card reading, and we're going to be looking at what are strangers' first impressions and thoughts of you. I'm going to be telling it real, and you can find out. Okay, so go ahead and choose intuitively one of these groups. So we have group number 1 here with the fan, group number 2 with the umbrella, group number 3 with the ball jar with the flowers, and then we have group number 4 with this beautiful butterfly. So see which one you're feeling drawn to. You may feel drawn to more than one, and that's totally fine. You can find the timestamps either in the description box or the comment section. So you can, as soon as you pick your number, and you know which one you want, you can go and find that, and it will take you to immediately where it starts in the video, so you don't have to scroll through. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here, and let's go. Hello, my friends. So if you've chosen group number 1, this is going to be your reading. So let's see. What do strangers have as an impression of you the first time that they meet you? What are their thoughts? What do they kind of take from you? Like, what do they kind of see about you? That sort of thing. So we have the fan here, and I wonder if some of you might be air signs choosing the fan or have strong air qualities. You'll see why too, because you've got this 11th house, which is an air house after all, with Aquarius usually. But we also have the 2nd house as well. So the 11th house and the 2nd house. Well, the first impression, so when we put the 11th and the 2nd together, the 11th is about connections, intricate systems, friendship groups oftentimes, kind of like collaborative energies in some way. Oftentimes this can talk about you giving the impression of working for a specific organization, okay? So perhaps a lot of strangers will see your name tag or your company, you know what I mean? This also can talk about somebody who's well connected, okay? Oftentimes if you have the ruler of the 2nd in the 11th, okay? So say you have a Taurus 2nd house and you have Venus up in the 11th house. It's so important for those type of people to network, okay, to network in order to make money. And so there could be a networking. It could also mean that you have like a social media presence as well, or like some sort of big connections as an example. So it could mean that you're often surrounded by people. When people meet you, they kind of notice your friends, or that you're around a group of friends, or perhaps they often are seeing you at work. Maybe some of you work quite a lot, and that's where you see most people or meet new people, is through your work. And so of course there's that aspect as well. But I would say generally, like, kind of a friendly, cooperative person is kind of how you come off. Of course, 11th house is a really positive house, honestly, so I want to say that people think of you quite positively in general. Now, the 2nd house is not as positive. And I know that many people might be like, what? Well, anyway, there's a reason for that, but I won't get into it. But it can be that it's almost like, I'll tell you, I don't know if people get to know the real you. Like, they can't tell who you really are when they get to know you. It's kind of like they're trying to figure that out. And the reason why I say that is, well, the 2nd and the 11th house, they don't see each other by aspect, okay? So that means that there's sometimes a disconnect. And the same thing with the 2nd house, and that's one of the reasons why the 2nd house is a bit difficult sometimes, is because it does not see the light of the ascendant. And it's like the 6th, the 8th, and the 12th, right? And that's why, for instance, the 5th, the 9th, and the 11th are more, because they kind of aspect by trine or sextile. Anyway, and the 3rd house, sorry, is pretty positive too, although not nearly as positive as the 5th, 9th, and 11th. But anyway, the point is that I feel like people often, they don't know you right away. You're harder to get to know. I think that actually you come off very nicely, and there's a positive light there, but I think that, you know what I mean, you're just not somebody people get to know right away. It's not like you put everything out there, and that's kind of one of the things I'm just picking up here. Yeah, 8 of Cups here. What's their first impression? What are their first thoughts when they meet? Beautiful, beautiful and friendly, but kind of going your own way. And I feel like in some way it's almost like, I don't know if you don't stick around too long for conversations or you kind of just turn around here with the Eight of Cups. It's almost like you're always kind of following some direction. This also could mean that people kind of get a dreamer sense off of you, kind of like you have high hopes and high dreams as well. But I want to say you give a very beautiful impression, and you seem very like kind of kind. And the other thing I would say is that like you seem like a giving person as well, kind of like a friendly face. Like you're not unfriendly, even if they don't know you at first and they can't quite tell you like, you know, who you are. It's like it doesn't come off like you're weird or like unfriendly at all. And I think that's what, you know, Spirit's trying to bring through here with the Empress and the Ace of Cups especially. You know, I mean, I think that you can attract a lot of admirers. And by the way, the 11th house, it's almost like people want to give you things. You can attract people who want to give you things as well or help you out, kind of like benefactors as an example too, because benefactors. But yeah, it feels like people have that impression that you must be popular, you must be well loved, you must. And you know, I will tell you that you give off kind of an expensive vibe. Okay, I don't know if you wear like kind of fancy things or something, but some people even just have that quality to them. Like they could be poor, but they will always look rich. Like there's just a style to them. It's like no matter the circumstances, they're always going to look good. And you know what I mean? They just kind of know how to put things together, even if they have one nice outfit, you know what I mean? It's like they have that one nice outfit that they spend a lot of money on and they, you know, take care of and stuff. It's just like, I'm not saying that's you, but I'm just saying that there's something that looks opulent about you. It's something that looks expensive, something that looks like high class. And you definitely come off as like kind of a high value person as well. And it's almost like, I will tell you that you may get a lot of people attracted to you because they think that they could like network through you. It's like maybe they think that you have the right friends in the right places, or there's something about you like, this person's got, you know, a good group of people around them, or they seem to know what they're talking about or doing. And, you know, it's like that sort of thing. But I do feel like a very friendly energy. You know, you give off a very friendly impression, very kind. And I think that there could be an aspect of being a team worker here, somebody who's very giving and receiving in both ways. We have Five of Wands and the Emperor. That's interesting. Especially because of the Empress. Yeah, it's like giving and receiving. And I want to say, you have, it feels like you give off a very strong balance of both the masculine and the feminine energies. It's like there's a very good balance of that. It's what I feel is coming through here. It's almost like perhaps when people see you, they see, you know, that balance there. It's like, I'm not going to go into like stereotypes and stuff like that, but it's like they can see that both present. Like it's kind of like you have like that yin yang energy, you know what I mean, with the masculine and the feminine. I do feel like it's like you almost come off as sweet, but at the same time they know that you could like screw someone up. It's almost like, and that's why I feel like sometimes people don't know how to take you. It's like you're friendly, but it's like they know they wouldn't cross you, or there's something about you that it's like they wouldn't want to push your buttons, you know what I mean? And I think that could be an air of authority or respect, like you might naturally kind of get this sort of respect towards you anyway. That sort of thing, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, let's see. What kind of assumptions do people have about you upon first meeting? What kind of assumptions? There's that Five of Wands again. You could be quite busy. And this could talk about being able to handle a lot of different tasks. You might be a list person, or you might seem like you can handle a lot of chaos, to be honest. Maybe you have a lot of different tasks to do when people meet you, or they see you as quite busy usually. Maybe you have a lot of things in your hands or a lot of things, you know, going on around you. We have the Four of Wands and the Six of Swords. For some of you, this might be like, you know, having a family to attend to, or, you know, looking after your children as an example. But not necessarily for all of you, but it feels as if yeah, it feels as if the assumption that people might make is that you could be quite like, you could be vicious if you wanted to be. So there must be something about you that gives off a little bit of an intimidating vibe, like almost like, but can I? Like so friendly, but can I push the button? You know what I mean? And with the Four of Wands and the Six of Swords, I do feel they could assume you're a traveler, that you like to go on holiday, that you like to change up your environment as well. This could be about moving homes. I wonder if for some of you, this person, people might assume that you're from a different country. You know, I recently had a guy ask me what my accent was from. I'm like, what accent? But he did think I was from another country, which I did live abroad most of my adult life, so. But it was just kind of a funny question. And maybe there's that assumption. You know what I mean? I got that all my life, though. I would always get like, where are you from? Like, what are you... And I'm just like, well, I'm like mostly English by, you know, bloodline. And then I have like some Cuban. You know what I mean? But I would often, like if I went to the Middle East, it's like they would assume I was Syrian, or they'd assume I was Lebanese. Lebanese is a big one. And if I was in Russia, it was like, oh, are you Italian? Are you so-and-so? You know what I mean? Like I would often get like all these different types of questions throughout my life. And anyway, so for some of you, it made me wonder, like, did you immigrate? Did you go somewhere? Are you from somewhere? So it's kind of like that sort of thing for some of you. And maybe you have like a look. You know, there's a guy who came into the gym and where I'm working, and I noticed right away he was Slavic. I knew it. And as soon as he scanned that thing, I saw his last name, and it was a Slavic last name. And I was like, yes, I knew it. He had that look. You know what I mean? And so there may be something like, maybe you look Nordic, or maybe you look like a certain, you know, like a certain ethnicity, nationality, whatever, and they kind of wonder where you're from. That could be definitely an assumption that you're from somewhere far away. Or even if you live, like, for instance, like I live in Colorado, and a lot of Colorado has a lot of Californian implants. Like there are a lot of people coming from California, so it's easy for me to assume that someone's not like a Coloradoan here, because most people are not. That you run into, they're all from somewhere else. So it's like rare to see people actually from Colorado. It feels like in Colorado, and so it could be that someone assumes that you're from somewhere else. So if you live in LA, they might assume that you came to LA from somewhere else, or you know what I mean, like, oh, they're not from around here, type of thing. And then maybe for some of you, you have a commanding way of speaking sometimes, like, you know, when to sound kind of like stern, or, you know, kind of straightforward as well. But I do feel like there's an organized aspect. It's almost like you can get your tasks done. Which makes you think that a lot of people must see you at work or something. Maybe you just have a lot of customers, or you have people coming towards you, or something like that, because it just feels like people see you as a busy person, or somehow like you're social and busy and like working and like that sort of thing. You know what I mean? But those are the impressions that I see. That's what I think strangers think of you. Of course, if this didn't feel like it resonated, you know, it is a pick a card after all, which is very much reliant on your own intuition. So if you feel like your intuition might have been off on this one, you can go back to the beginning and choose another one. But that's what I've got for you guys. I really do hope that you enjoyed it, and I wish you the very, very best. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next reading. Bye-bye. Hello, my friends. So, group number 2. What do strangers think about you? What did they assume about you? What's going on? So this is an interesting topic, and it was actually suggested to me by this program called vidIQ, and I was like, that's a cool topic. I'm doing it. And sometimes they give me ridiculous ones. Like some of them are hilarious, like really hilarious. I've been like screenshotting some of them sometimes because I'm like, what? Because it kind of generates ideas, and it's just really, some of them are weird. They'll be like, Aquarius, who hates you or something. I don't even know. There was like one that was really funny though, specifically, but I can't remember it at the moment. So what do people think about you? What are people's first impression of you? So we have the 7th house, we have Leo and the moon. So what's interesting here is I do wonder if some of you might have this combo. Do you have sun in the 7th, or maybe you have an Aquarius rising, or for some of you there could be moon in the 7th. But one thing I will tell you, you may actually have really strong even balance of masculine and feminine qualities. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that when people have the moon, especially the moon, in the house, like 7th house, 1st, or even the 10th, but even the 4th, you know, honestly, when it's in angular houses, when the moon is in an angular house, so basically the 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th, usually this means that the person is familiar. So they're often going to get comments like, man, you look so familiar. Do I know you from somewhere? Oh man, you look like that actress or this person, especially with Leo here. It could mean that you resemble someone famous, or you might often be told you look like that specific actor or actress or author or, you know, character or whatever. But it's like you're going to get, there's a feeling of familiarity. And that's going to be with the moon regardless, but I think especially in this reading, I mean, it's going to be like that. But yeah, oftentimes in astrology, the moon, when it's an aspect to the ascendant, or I said in those angular houses, it's going to be common. And there's a sweetness to you, for sure. And there's definitely a relatability, I think, that you really exude. It's like people know that they can kind of trust you. It's like they feel instantly connected in a lot of ways. It's almost like instant familiarity, instant comfort, you know, comfort here. Leo could mean that they also, especially moon in Leo as well, because the moon also can rule our hair. And so your hair might be very noticeable to people. They might actually really notice your hairstyles, hair color, whatever it is, but there may be something that really sticks out, whether it's curly or, you know, very long, or it's got an interesting color. But I think your hair really sticks out to people as well. And I want to say as well, your eyes. For some of you, especially especially the feminines here, your breasts may be very noticeable, to be honest, okay, because the moon. Okay. Anyway, that could be a possibility here too. Let me see. But there's generally a kindness, familiarity, something nurturing and comforting about your presence. So I like that. Some of you may have a sun-moon conjunction, which can mean that you look like both your parents. A sun-moon conjunction is a what? A new moon. Okay, so if you're born during a new moon, oftentimes you will look like both mother and father kind of equally. And that's really common. But oftentimes strangers, of course, wouldn't know this unless you're around with your parents. This also can mean as being seen with your partner a lot. You may be assumed to be married or to be in a relationship as well. Like you might be one of those people that really comes off so beautiful, so like attractive, like, oh, they must be in a relationship. You know, that sort of thing. What do people think? We have the Queen of Pentacles. That's a beautiful card. So again, there is, whoa, the Empress. What? Group number 1 got the Empress too. Cool. Okay, so of course, you know, the Empress represents someone very beautiful. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of, I would say that generally your first impression is quite good, especially physically. In the physical world, I think that you look good, and especially to other people. You may not feel that way about yourself. We often are pretty judgmental on ourselves, pretty harsh. Don't be. Don't be harsh, because I think that you really do give off a beautiful impression. Like, there's just something about you that exudes, you know, beauty and attraction. And there's something very high quality about you as well. It's like, you know, honestly, especially if like you're a feminine, it's like people look at you and think like, you know, partner material. Like, but it doesn't matter whether you're masculine or feminine, because I see the Leo here. I think it represents the sun. It can really go either way, but it's like people see you as like marriage material or partnership material. You may actually, for some of you, they may assume you're a mother as well. Maybe you have children around you, so they assume you're a good mother, loving mother, kind mother, that sort of thing. But the Knight of Cups, honestly, your first impression is so good. I could just sit here and say, kind of repeat the similar things over and over, I feel like. But, so I'm not going to do that. But that's kind of like, the first impression is quite nice. And kind of similarly to group number 1 with the Empress and the Queen of Pentacles, you may give off an impression of high class as well, especially with Leo too. Leo's very regal, right? The sun is the king. And so it's like there's sort of like a leadership quality or something that really stands out and shines about you. And yeah. What are people's assumptions about them upon first meeting? Temperance, 10 of Pentacles. Honestly, people probably think you come from a good family. to be honest, maybe you come from a nice family, or they assume so, that you must have had a nice family, nice raising, nice background. As an example, for some people, they might assume that you come from a rich family, to be honest, with the 10 of Pentacles. With the Temperance and the Judgment card, well, the Temperance card is very kind of gentle energy. So I would say that they would assume that you're quite moderate. Like, I think, honestly, a lot of people might be surprised to find out, like, it's almost like, okay, one thing I will tell you is I have, like, 2 tattoos, right? And I can shock people with that information, because oftentimes when I meet people, and know people in real life, they don't see them because they're not apparent in my regular clothing. You know what I mean? I'd have to be wearing like a tank top or a belly shirt because one's on my stomach and the other one's on my back. So most people wouldn't even see them. And oftentimes when people find out I have a tattoo, they're like, really? I wouldn't have thought. And like, they'll be surprised. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. No, anyway, no, really. And there may be something that comes off about you that's very moderate. Like, maybe people assume you don't drink, or you don't smoke, you don't swear, you don't rat your hair, you get ill from one cigarette. Like the Grease song. Anyone like that song? Keep your hands off my silky drawers. Would you pull that crap with a net? I love that movie. Yeah, but there may be a little bit of a goody-goody vibe to you. You might have a bit of a goody-goody vibe, like, and it doesn't mean you have to be, okay? Like, look at Doris Day, and I did that video on my astrology channel. You should check it out. But Doris Day had an Aries Venus, and she actually had quite the wild love life. Much like all Aries Venuses, like Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn. They all had, like, a lot of people. There's a lot of them that had that. But yeah, she actually had it, but she was like the girl next door. Like, look at me, I'm Doris Day. I was not brought up that way. But she was, like, quite the crazy one. So, but yeah, I think your first impression, that doesn't mean that you're like that. But you may just come off as very kind, sweet, agreeable. And so people just would assume that you're naturally kind of good or goody-goody, And that's just what I'm getting here. It might be like, again, with I said the 10 of Pentacles, it might be that you come from a prominent family. Or maybe you have the family name of someone famous. You know what I mean? Like, maybe your last name is Bush, or you know what I mean, like a Bush family, or I don't know. I mean, that was the first thing that came to my mind. But you know what I mean. You might have a name that's famous, not Rockefellers, maybe Rockefeller, or something that sounds kind of fancy. I have my maiden name was Fox, and there are a lot of Megan Fox as an example, and like Jamie Foxx, and there's just a lot of Foxes out there, but yeah, and also Matthew Fox. And Matthew Fox actually looks weirdly like my uncle. And it's not my biological last name. It was an adopted last name, but still. Anyway. But yeah, there's that. It's almost like maybe you have that. Anyway, Judgment card's interesting too, because it's almost like, I feel like people think that there's more to get to know, and that there is an understanding that maybe there is a little bit more to you. Like, they could be, but I think that your first impression is a lot different than when people get to know you. It's almost like perhaps you come off not tight, like as if you're like a kind of very straight-laced person who's like too goody-goody or something like that. I don't think you come off like rigid, like you're, like the kind of like stern person or something. No, 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 no. That's not at all it. It's that I think that once people get to know you, it's like they get a new impression. And I do feel with the seventh house as well. It's kind of like when people start to build that one-on-one connection with you is when you'll really start to open up. And so they'll get to know you in a whole new light. But I think on the surface of things, there may be that sort of like where they might assume that you're somewhat reserved or somewhat like goody-goody, as I mentioned. But anyway, that's what I'm seeing for those of you that chose group number 2. I really do hope you enjoyed this reading. If you like this reading, please give it a thumbs up so I know. And I will definitely do more like this in the future. If you have any suggestions, leave them down below. And if you want a personal reading, you can do that by going down in the description box and clicking on the link to my Etsy store. Anyway, take care, guys, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Hello, my friends. So if you chose group number 3 here with this ball jar, and it's got some flowers in it. So what is your what first impression do you give to other people? What do strangers think of you? What do they assume of you? So we're going to be looking at this. We're starting with some astrology cards, because that's my jam, you know. So we have Mercury retrograde, and we've got the 12th house. Well, geez, you must be quiet. If you're not quiet, then you're in the wrong group and you've chosen the wrong pile. You must be quite quiet, because the 12th house is like, well, we know it's a house of undoing. It's a house of the unseen. It's sort of like a bit of an escapist house. It might be that you avoid conversation. You're quiet. Maybe you're a person of few words as well. Mercury retrograde. Yeah, it feels like it's for some people, especially like on how far you get into the first impression, you may come off as a little daydreamy. You may tend to kind of go off on your own as well. This could be about being alone as well. Like you're often seen alone or kind of withdrawn. There's definitely something unreachable about you in some way. I'm going to tell you, and I don't mean this as a negative thing, it's not necessarily, but I think that sometimes people might find it hard to talk to you. Like maybe you just are shy, or you don't hold conversation very much, or, you know, you just kind of are. I think you guys are honestly probably shy, but that's just what I'm getting. What are people's first impressions of you? Like what is first... Oh, it fell down. The moon, the tower. It's like you're gone and then you disappear. Maybe you disappear quickly. Maybe you're like, doo-doo. With the moon here, well, obviously the moon can talk about the mystery. And so I do feel like that there's a part of you that comes off very mysterious. And I feel like, especially if you are kind of seen as shy from first get-go, you are not shy afterwards. Like once you get to know someone, you're not shy, you're pretty outgoing, you're pretty friendly. But you might also do better when it's one-on-one rather than in groups. It's something I would say. I will tell you that, and this is for some of you, and this is not going to be for all of you, but for some of you, the way that you speak may be hard for certain people to understand. And this could be because you have like an accent of some kind or something like that. Maybe you talk very fast or something like that. That's not for all of you, but it could be. It could be that some of you have a foreign accent to the place that you're at, or maybe it's like you're very southern and you go to the north and in the U.S. and then everyone's like, what? And like, yeah, that sort of thing. There could be something there as well, because Mercury retrograde and 12th house. But I think more so it's going to represent the idea that you're a quieter person. You're not super out there. You're not super talkative right away. I think that you have to kind of have that breakthrough for you to get comfortable. And that's really what comes through. The moon can be, again, very mysterious in nature. So it can show somebody who people can't read very easily, to be honest. And in some way you may kind of create surprises for people. Like, one second, I was just trying to grab this deck over here and move it. Oops. You may create like kind of a surprising outcome sometimes, like once people get to know you. It's almost like you need a warm up, and then suddenly you're a totally different person. Is what I feel. That's what I'm really feeling. It's almost like you're very quiet, and then suddenly, boom, then you sort of open up, and there it's like they've cracked you. And usually this can talk about someone who's very creative, very imaginative. You may often seem lost in thought as well, or kind of in your own world, to be honest. So I don't know. There's like one girl I often see at the gym, and she's like, no. What's weird is like I've said hello to her, and she'll like just walk past me, and I don't know if she's like just rude or if she's like in her own world and not noticing me. But like, you know, like everyone else says hi and I'll say hi to them, and like she's like the one girl who just walked past me, but she doesn't seem like a mean person. So I don't know if she's like on her headphones or whatever, but that could be something there, you know, where it's like maybe you're on your headphones and they can't actually talk to you. Okay. But this can talk also about, you know, someone very artistic as well, like I mentioned, and that sort of thing. Let me see what else comes through. What are people's assumptions about you? But you're very like good looking, by the way, with the Queen of Wands. She's kind of got the sexy vibe to her. Okay. What are people's assumptions? Okay, I'm going to tell you. Sometimes people might assume that you are, I don't know if you've heard this comment before, but you know, in the comments below, let me know by giving me a thumbs up emoji. Do you ever, or have you ever been told that people thought you were stuck up when you first met them? Because that may be something, and sometimes that happens to quiet people. It's just that when people, you know what I mean? Even myself, I've fallen prey to that with that girl. I'm sure she's not stuck up. She's probably just shy. But you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like, what's the deal? And you know, and I've even, when I was younger, especially during certain phases, I was very shy, and I would get that comment every once in a while. Oh, when I first met you, I thought you'd be stuck up because you're pretty and you're quiet. And so I thought that you thought you were too good for all of us. And you know, I have to think that some of you may have had that comment before, because maybe some people think, you know, you have your own thing going on, you don't really give a shit about them, that sort of thing. And sometimes that could be an assumption. There also could be an assumption that you're well off as well, that you know, come off kind of like looking good. Maybe they assume you have more money than you do, that sort of thing with the Nine of Pentacles, or that you have a good job, good position. There can be that assumption as well. So if you do, you know, they just see that for what it is. But even if you don't have that, it's like kind of the impression that you give off. You know, it's an assumption that they make about you. The Three of Wands could show you as somebody who's kind of adventurous, a bit of a traveler. Maybe you kind of move around a lot, or even if you're quiet, maybe you're constantly moving or pursuing something as well. That shows up for people. God, my chair is so squeaky. I need to get it fixed. Is what I need to do. But the Three of Wands is actually pretty friendly. And do you know what I mean? And they're also maybe the kind of like that people assume that you're good on your own, right? That you're fine on your own, that you enjoy yourself, you enjoy your own company, as an example. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. The Three of Wands, that's an optimistic card, a very optimistic card, and it usually talks about, you know, plenty of opportunities. So they might assume you're a person that's had plenty of opportunities put in front of you. And this can talk about usually like, you know, successful people as well, especially with the Nine of Pentacles, to be honest. Yeah. The Knight of Swords, this person can maybe feel like, not this person, but like people in general may assume that you have certain beliefs as well. So you may come off like as a particular political party, or certain belief systems or something might be prevalent there. Like kind of like, oh, I assume that they are like this. There might be a little bit of an authoritative way to speaking. So you may come off sometimes like people might assume that you're a know-it-all. And I know that some of you probably won't like to hear that. It's not meant to be negative. These are people's assumptions. That's not necessarily what they think when they get to know you. A lot of times we can have the wrong first impressions. Think of how many times you've had the wrong first impression of somebody. Maybe you thought someone hated you, but then you find out, oh, no, they didn't. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. And always we can take this and think, okay, like if someone thinks I'm stuck up, I had that a few times where I had people that thought I didn't like them, and then it made me really, really rethink how I was handling myself. What made them think, I was like, what made you think that I didn't like you? And you know what I mean? And then taking that feedback and, thinking, okay, well, I'm going to be more open and friendly. I'm not going to cross my arms and, do that, body language or whatever. Okay, what kind of assumptions? Yeah, mysterious. You're very mysterious. They might assume that you're a witch or kind of mystical or witchy. Again, we sort of get moderate energy. It's like, this kind of reminds me of group number 2 in a way, where you may come off as kind of a moderate person, good behavior, kind of quiet. So it feels as if, and you may come off like you're sizing other people up. They might assume you're sizing them up. You look very put together, your energy comes off as put together though. It's not like you're all over the place. With the Mercury retrograde in 12th house, like you may be imaginative, but it's not like you're stupid. Like where someone's like an exaggerated version of imaginative, where someone's just like, oh, and then they like drop shit, and you know what I mean, that sort of thing. Like, the trope in the movies, like that they'll show, where it's like there's that creative kid who's kind of crazy and they're just like really clumsy. No, not like that. You're not clumsy, or at least that it doesn't appear that is a first impression. But it's like, because I would think that they actually feel like they would assume you have a good handle on yourself. Yeah. And I think that you have the way that you do come off as well. It's almost like if they get a word, it feels good. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and there may be authoritative the way that you talk, where people take you seriously. So there's not that aura of like, gosh, like young and stupid and like, oh, I'm not going to listen to that person because they don't know what the heck they're talking about. I really don't get that. You come off as informed and smart. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's what I'm seeing for those of you that chose group number 3. I really do hope you enjoyed this reading. Let me know in the comments below what you thought, because I'm very curious. I'm very curious to hear. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the donations and like the nice things that you guys do for me. Especially thank you for leaving me comments. It really does help the channel when you do. And I really do hope to see you again in the future, okay? So click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And my voice is getting tired, I think. Okay, lots of love. Take care of yourself, okay? Bye-bye. Hello, my friends. So, what are people's first assumptions of you? Whoa. Why can I not say this? It's like not coming out right. It's like what are people's first assumptions and impressions of you? What's your first impression? What do people think of you? That sort of thing. So we have got the 3rd house, and we've got Mars. So this is interesting, because the 3rd house can talk about communication. And oftentimes what people have in the 3rd house, well, if they have something in the 3rd house, there's definitely a strong influence around communication in their life. And so with Mars, to be honest, oof. Okay, so as people's first impression, this could mean that you have a rough voice. This could mean that you have an angry sounding voice, to be honest. It could mean that you speak with force as well. You may actually be quite like witty and clever with words as well. But that's really interesting. So I do wonder, especially if any masculines are watching, this could be like having a deep voice, or like kind of a commanding, kind of scary voice. Okay. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, I feel like here, there's something about you that people take notice of when you speak in particular. Interesting. People's first impression. Sometimes you might look a bit sad, like you're mourning something or sad. We have the 4 of Cups as well. I feel as if you kind of can come off sometimes as disinterested. And to be honest, it may not be something that you're even doing. It could just be kind of how people are taking you. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be who you are. There also could be some sort of impression around siblings, family, cousins, things of that nature, neighborhood. For some of you, it might be that you make a lot of complaints about your neighborhood or you talk about the neighborhood. For others of you, they may see you kind of exercising around the neighborhood as an example too, by the way. Maybe you're kind of off doing your own thing. Maybe you're very focused on some task all the time when people meet you. It almost reminds me of like maybe somebody who's on their phone a lot or is kind of disconnected in some way. Now, I know that some of you might be annoyed with these kind of descriptions. And, if you don't feel like it's for you, you may have chosen the wrong group, and that's fine. You can go back to the beginning and choose another. But sometimes it's good to hear these type of things because, I've had people tell me on my channel I talk too fast as an example, and I know that's true. I know that's true, and I need to fix it. And generally, I'll take feedback pretty well. Every once in a while, I might get snappy if I feel like it's an attack instead of like constructive. But, you know what I mean? Like there's something, and that may be something that will help you because if you do feel like you're kind of very focused on your task at hand, some of you might be like, reading or something like that. But I do want to say that it feels like they're a little bit hard to get to know in some way for people. It's like they want to. There may be intimidation here with the Lovers. And the Queen of Pentacles almost makes me think that in some way you're so like good looking that people might assume that you're aggressive or kind of like bitchy. You know what I mean? A lot of people make a lot of assumptions that way. If someone's too pretty or too good looking, they'll be like, oh, they must be a bitch. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You may often be found with another person as well. Maybe you're often around someone else or in a group of people or around other people. I want to say that your voice or the words that you say, like the words that you write are quite passionate. And I want to say as well, I wonder if people, do you write at all? Because if you're a writer, put a pen emoji or a pencil emoji down in the comments because I'm kind of curious if some of you are writers and people often get an impression through your writing, through your written word. Okay? Sorry my chair is so squeaky. It's so annoying. I'm over it. And anyway, but that's kind of what I'm kind of wondering here too. There is something about you that always seems interested in something else. Maybe your attention's constantly somewhere else. It's kind of like you get distracted by something and so your attention isn't looking at them, or maybe you're kind of a little bit energetic by nature, so maybe you fidget as an example, or that's also something. There could be a lot of fidgeting and kind of movement going on as well, which may kind of give the people the impression that you're busy or something like that. I mean, some of you could be known, or people soon learn that you've had some sort of tragedy or problem as well. That's what I'm also getting. But generally your voice is quite distinctive, quite noticeable. Like I said, some of you may be known for sport or for something like that as well. Not necessarily, though. I feel like that's probably a rare occurrence here. But yeah, it feels as if people see you and then they assume that you're not interested in them. Maybe you're just focused elsewhere. Maybe you're easily distracted. Let's see here. And what are their assumptions? That you're not interested. Four of Cups. It's honestly, sometimes you may give the people the impression that you're not interested in them, or that you don't want to talk. But I do feel like they have an assumption that you're a nice person. So it's not like as a mean person, okay? This isn't like the previous group. Maybe this that person could have, like in the previous group, it could have been like, oh, the person might be seen as like stuck up. No, not you. I don't think this is stuck up energy. It's almost like you got other things on your mind. There's a friendliness. They assume you're friendly. They assume you're kind. People may also assume that you're young. And again, Mars is a very useful planet. And so you may often have people assuming that you're younger than you are in particular, okay? If you work out or something or take care of yourself physically, that might be why as well. Maybe you just come off very youthful. Because we also have a child in the Four of Cups as well. Again, there may be, I really do feel like this, people often will assume that you're not interested. Yeah, Four of Cups. Four of Swords, I mean. We have the Four of Cups and the Four of Swords. Yeah, I feel like your first impression and like the assumptions are that they're not really sure what to think. Because I do feel in some way they feel like you're not interested in them. But it's not in a mean way. It's not like you look down on other people and they assume you're stuck up. That's not the vibe at all. Okay? And that is, like I told you in group number 3, is more of that. But again, it feels like you're maybe preoccupied with something else. Some of you might have your nose stuck in a book or often reading something. It doesn't have to be your phone. It could be like reading books a lot. Maybe you're an avid reader, or you're constantly kind of like focused on something in particular. Maybe you're a knitter or crocheter or something like that too. Oh, by the way, that could be needle crafts, embroidery, crochet, things of that nature, by the way, because Mars, and it's in the 3rd house, and that's hands. So your hands as well might give a good first impression as well, or be known for your hands, or somehow it stands out. Again, your hands may be very busy. You may fidget. But I would say, what kind of vibe do you give? The Queen of Pentacles came out twice. So, you know, it's not, the Queen of Pentacles is not unfriendly. She's kind and giving and loving. And again, I do think you give off, you give off a good vibe. But there's just something there that I think there's a little bit of a barrier here. And again, it may be like an inner authority. It's almost like people think that, you know, you definitely give off leadership vibes, I think. And like, sometimes people can be intimidated by that. It's almost like, well, you almost come off like the person who like doesn't need anyone, or like isn't interested, has their own life, has their own thing going on. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that you give off a beautiful impression. I think that people find you to be very good looking upon, you know, first glance. But it's like, of course, and that may make them intimidated by you a little bit. But I think it's also the way that you carry yourself. It just seems as if you're in your own world, focus on your own thing. And there's that. And again, these are strangers. Of course, as you get to know somebody, this is probably going to change. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, we might assume a lot about someone just on first glance. And, you know what I mean? That's more what we're looking at. Of course, this doesn't mean maybe what somebody will think of you after 2 weeks of knowing you, as an example. It's more like first impression, right? So keep that in mind. I want to thank you so much for being here, and I really do hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope that you'll stick around the channel by subscribing. I'd love it if you gave me a like or a thumbs up to let me know that you did enjoy this video, and I'll make more like them. And if you want a personal reading with me, you can do that on my Etsy. Well, thank you very much for being here, like I said, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.